Hey guys, it is Eddie, and we are going to have some time talking today and whiteboarding out a real scenario that happened yesterday. So here's the story. Mega season real estate investor, top 10 investor in his city, is a mutual friend with one of my very best friends. Okay. Now he's coming to a 3-day note class. Okay, but he's not come yet. He's a mega season investor, buys well north of 100 properties a year, definitely a veteran, definitely knows he needs to add creative financing to his business. Wholesaling alone, he totally gets it. He's leaving deals off the table. He's missing deals. Here's his mindset. Eddie, I want to think like the 2%ers. Okay. Now, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an intermediate or whether you're a super savvy guy, you can still think like a 2%er. 98% of the herd is going to go do something else always. Here's my issue. This is guys in a market. He's making 20 offers. He gets one wholesale house bought at a discount. He's got 19 people that say no, and his trash can keeps getting full of no's, not yeses. Same old story, same old situation. So he calls me and he says, Eddie, I've got a terms deal. It's exactly what you've been talking about. I'm going to pay retail because the guy won't wholesale it, but he's willing to carry terms. He's willing to carry financing for me if he doesn't have to discount his house. I said, okay. He said, Eddie, I got terms that I want to submit to him, but now I've realized I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm close, I think. I've got some things figured out. I've discussed some numbers with him that he seems okay with, but now I'm thinking about what would I do if I had Eddie in my pocket. I said, okay, I'm cool with that. So here's the deal he brings to me, and here's how we restructure it. Now, let me caution you for a minute. I've been doing this for 40 years. Well, 39. Okay? I've been running numbers, on a financial calculator, and yours is going to look different, but I'm old school and I've been using this very brand since whatever, and it still calculates the same number, so I don't need to go use the newfangled calculator, right? I can still get the same numbers. I've been doing this a long time, so if I lose you a little bit in the numbers today, I just want you to look at this and think, this is my first day on roller skates. This is my very first day on roller skating. And I've been roller derbying for a long time, okay? So don't get freaked out if what we're doing today, if you get a little bit lost in the numbers. I want you to get the concept, okay? I want you to get the fact that here's a real estate investor that's been buying over 100 houses a year in his market and paying cash and flipping them, right? And he says, I'm tired of the 19 people that are saying no, and I'm committed to double my conversion rates. And I need some help, Eddie, in how to do it. And by the way, Eddie, I'm going to fumble when I start. Even as seasoned as I am, I'm not the veteran at creative finance that you are. Of course he's not. And of course you're not. But along the way, let's do that. Now, let me remind you, every step of the way, I want you to help me out. I want you to comment. I want to respond to your comments. I want you to like this, and I want you to share it. Okay? This, I believe, is the most important expansion to real estate investing that's out there today. How do you operate like the 2% of investors that know how to do creative financing outside of buy low, sell high? So the first scenario is this. This is a house. I'm not going to tell you the guy's name or the city, okay? Trust me, he's a big operator in a city, and he is coming soon to a class, and if you come hang out, you probably will figure out who it is, okay? But he's a big operator in a class, and by the way, I have a lot of those guys that show up at our classes. He's a big operator in a city, but I just feel like there's no point in getting into his personal story at the moment. We may down the road, but I didn't get into all that. This is just a real thing that happened to me yesterday, okay? So retail for this house is $260,000. All in, that is retail. That's all anybody would pay, full retail price. Now, what would a wholesaler pay? 180? 190? Yeah, probably somewhere, let's say 185. Okay, so this is wholesale. This is retail. Now, why would he do retail? Pretty simple. The investor won't take wholesale. This guy is a no at this number. At this number, he's out. He's done. How many of you have had this happen to you? Every day of your life. So this guy that I'm talking to, and I'm going to call him Bob, okay? His name isn't Bob, but I'll call him Bob because Bob's a nice short name. So Bob has already been listening to me, and he's already been down the road, and he knows that he can take the customer that won't do the wholesale discounted price and come at it at a different angle and say, I'll pay your price, Mr. Customer, if you will work with me on how I pay you, right? I'll pay you your price if you will let me have my terms, okay? So this guy said, the customer says, he's out. Good. Now I'll show you how to make more money. So 260 is his deal, and he says, Eddie, here's the deal I want to offer. Now, I don't want to get into all the exits for this property today because it's a little too much to unpack. Okay? I can show him how to resell it with seller financing on a wrap note and make a lot more money. But today, I'm not going to do that because he called me and says, I want to just rent it. And I'm cool with that. Okay? So he says, I want to rent it, and here's the terms of the rent. Okay? It rents for $1,500 a month. Let me get my notes over here. And the taxes are $175. Insurance is $60. And he says, Eddie, I can rent for $1,265. Okay? That's his gross income or his net income on his rent after he takes out taxes and insurance. Yes, I get it. I didn't put any maintenance or vacancy number in there, but I'm just saying, just so we got a number to work with, his debt service needs to be below this number. Does everybody agree with this? His debt service needs to be below what he's going to net in rent. Okay? If he's going to get a check every month and if he's going to have a safety factor. Okay? Now for this investor, I'm not saying you want it this way, this investor is willing to pay $10,000 down. Okay? He's willing to put up 10 grand. The seller is going to finance $250,000 over time. Okay? Now, before we unpack the whole thing, you're going to see that I could show you how to give him 10 grand at the closing, but it's not Bob's money. There's another way to do it. But let's assume, for conversation purposes, because I'm first going to analyze the deal that he's wanting to propose. Okay? So he takes $250,000. And he does it at 0% interest. This is how he wants to propose it. And he makes his payment $900 a month. And the term is 83 payments plus a balloon. Okay? So here's what he has. Let me just clean the board off for a minute. Everybody following the math here, because this is really critical that you get in your mind how this math works. $260,000 is a full retail price, no discount on the property. $10,000 down, $250,000 is financed by the seller, 0% interest, $900 principal only a month, right? It has to be principal only because there's no interest, right? It has 7 years, and on the end of the 7th year, what happens? It has all the principal then becomes due, okay? So let's analyze his cash flow for a minute, okay? I like to do it this way because it helps me really see my numbers. I've taught this enough and I've done this enough in my own mind that I've really learned that looking at this number and this cash flow really helps my creative thinking. So this is how I drew it. I'm very prone to draw a timeline. Okay? So the timeline works like this. Okay? The rent, I'm going to do this in a different color. The rent is $1,265, right? That's the rent. That's my income. And the payment is $900. Okay? So these represent time. And this is 7 years. Now he put up $10,000 investment to net $365 a month. $365 all the way down for 7 years. Does logic make sense? Now you say, well, he gets Eddie, calm down. In 3 years, he gets his 10 grand back. I got it. Not a bad, this isn't a terrible deal, but there's a better way to structure it. Okay? What I'm saying to you, this is normal. I take a mega seasoned investor or a brand new investor, and they have a framework of how they would structure it, and I show them how to pull money out of the deal they couldn't find. That's what a coach is supposed to do, right? A coach is supposed to show you how to make it better than you knew to make it, right? So this is the mortgage payment. Once again, it's principal only. Now what happens in 7 years? Well, it's pretty simple. I take $900 times 12, which is $1,000 $1,800. Is that what it is? $1,800 times 7 years. And I'm reducing the principal of $75,600. Okay? So how much do I owe at the end of 7 years? Well, if this math is true, and it is, I'll owe $174,400. So let's just say 175,000. This is my payment, 900, 900, 900. I'm collecting rent, $1,265, and I'm assuming it's not going up. That's my income. That's my outgo. This is my net. I'm rocking along. At the end of 7 years, I owe $175,000. Now, effectively, 7 years from now, hopefully the property is worth more than $260,000, and it probably will be. Right? I've controlled the property with an option to essentially then go buy it for $175,000. And I got to earn $365 a month. So this isn't a terrible deal. Okay? But it can be a lot better. All right. Now remember, I want you to comment. I want you to like it. And I want you to share it. So I've got any comments we need to respond to yet, Adam?
Not yet.
All right. So we're monitoring. Adam's helping me with this, and we're monitoring it. But here's the deal. Okay. These are the bones of how he wants to structure the deal. And he calls me and says, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think you can make it better. And it may not seem like it's better. In fact, I may structure it and you think it's worse. Let's look at it from the guy selling the property's perspective. He got $10,000 at the closing. He gets $900 a month, and he's holding on until year 7, and that's when he's going to get his $175,000. Okay? And if I ran a calculation of what those payments are worth out in the future, if I said, what are they worth today? To be honest with you, those payments wouldn't be deeply discounted. Even though they're due in the future, it's only 7 years in the future. This payment, mathematically, is not. If you took what it's worth in today's money, if I moved 175 and said, what is it worth today? It's not 175,000, but it's still more than 75 cents on the dollar. Okay? That's what I don't like about this deal. While you're borrowing the money at no interest, you're not borrowing it for long. You're not borrowing it for long enough. You're not getting the impact of dictating the terms if you only borrow the money for 7 years. Okay, that's what I don't like about this deal. I want to take this money and push it out. I want to push it out way out in the future. Because then when I put a first right of refusal to buy the note, he is going to sell me these payments that I owe out in the future. He's going to let me buy my own debt at a very good discount. If the loan fully pays back in 7 years, the odds of him selling the loan to me are maybe 30%. If I do it for 20 years, the odds of him selling the loan to me are more like about 100%. Okay? You understand the difference? There's a huge difference. So the deal after the deal of me buying my own loan at a discount is in direct correlation to how I structured the deal. I don't like this balloon and I don't like this term. That's what I don't like about it. Okay. Now I understand everything is a talk off. So when he asked me how I would counterbalance it, you must understand that I had to give the customer something that was better in his mind than what he's getting right now. This is what surprised Bob, and I think it'll surprise you. I restructured the deal, and I said, okay, $260,000. I'm going to get the customer $10,000 at the closing. In fact, I'm going to get him $10,350. Okay? Now, just for conversation purposes, I'm not going to make all these numbers. I'm just going to leave them even. So I'm going to get him $250,000 over time. So we'll just say that I'm increasing the sales price by $350, just so I don't make I don't get all the percentages and math confusing. There's a reason that I'm saying this, is because I'm going to make a note here that's going to be 8% interest. Whoops, if I can draw an 8. It's going to be 8% interest. The payment is $900 a month, and the term is 12 months. This is a first lane. And I have an excessive amount of people with $10,000 in a self-directed retirement account that would fund $10,300, the full face amount of the note, to earn 8% interest and $900 a month for 12 months. A first lien on a $260,000 house. Easy? No brainer. The customer gets $10,000 at the closing. It's just not Bob's $10,000. The $10,000 comes from the investor that's going to buy this note. Okay? So we structure a little bitty first lien that is intended to be sold simultaneously at the closing. Now you're saying, how do you do this? This is how I set up the note system for hundreds and hundreds of real estate investors for the past 25 years. I show them how to create a seller finance note. They can sell the note at the closing. That way they get liquidity, and then they can still keep another note, and then they can also earn long-term income. Okay? Nothing magic about this. Here's the little first lien. I'm going to sell it at the closing. How much does Bob come to the closing with now? 0. Now, I said, in this scenario, let's do a 2% $900 payment, starts in 12 months. So the interest rate and the payment starts when? 12 months from closing. Okay? So it has a delayed start date on the interest and the payment. Okay? So you're not accruing interest for a year. It's not, there's no interest until, boom, the 12 months starts. All right? Then let's go let's go 6 years out. Let's then increase the interest rate to 6%, and that's going to kick our payment up, and we're going to calculate that. Why do I want to do that? Because it doesn't matter what the future interest rate is, and it doesn't matter what the future payment is. It's that money that he's going to be 20, 30 years collecting back. That means that he's going to then sell me that loan at a discount. I bought 40,000 seller finance notes. Lord knows I've looked at 300,000 or 400,000 notes over my life. Okay? I'll promise you, this customer will sell me this note in 8 to 10 years, virtually 100% of the time. But if I have a balloon in 7 years, they won't sell it because the grand prize is right in front of them. If the money is way out in the future, even if it earns a higher interest rate, even if the payment is greater, they'll sell me the loan at a discount. So this is part of understanding the reaction to your customer, not just nerding it on a whiteboard and running numbers. Okay? I've been running these numbers a long time. I can hang out with all the engineers running present value calculations and cash flows and amortizations. Whoopie-doo. What makes me a note buyer is creativity. That's what makes me a note guy. That's what's going to make you a creative financer. Yes, over time, we're going to have to learn to run some numbers. Don't be intimidated. You had to learn to drive a car. You had to learn to run a computer, right? So if this is like your monster, trust me, a few hours of this and we can get you to where you can run numbers. I'm not saying I can do it in 10 minutes. If you want to become a millionaire, you got to be willing to invest more than 10 minutes, okay? Is that fair? So yes, it's going to take a little time to learn to do it, but this is not the brain surgery. The money that's made is in here with creativity. This is just a result of math. Knowing how to assemble it is in here, and that is creativity. Okay, so if I ran a calculation and I said, I'm going to finance $250,000, right, here at 2% interest at $900 a month, then the term of my loan, hold on a minute. The term of my loan is basically 31 years and 2 months, 374 months. So this principal at this interest and this payment will pay out in 31 years. Okay? Now remember what happens. Let's go back to our timeline. This is very critical. Remember what happens in our timeline. Whoops, let's see. Let me get the right pencil here so it'll rock better. Let's see what I do with it. Adam?
That one right there? On the right?
Oh, here it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For 12 months, I'm paying $900 a month, right? Where's that loan payment going? That loan payment is going for the $10,350 note. It's this note, this payment, and who's it going to? The guy with the self-directed retirement account that bought this note. So my payment is $900, just like it was a while ago. Okay? But what am I doing? In this scenario, I've sold that payment to a note investor. The loan was sold. Was it sold at a discount? No. It was sold at the full face amount of the note. You're saying, I didn't know you could do that. Trust me, I've done it tens of thousands of times. Okay? So now I have this loan for 6 years. How much is my payment? Guess what? It's the same. Now the first is paid off because it only took 12 months and it's gone. And this what was a second lien moves up to a first lien position because after 12 months, the first is paid off and then the second rolls up to a first lien position. All right. So now my payment is how much? My payment is $900 a month. $900 every month. Wow, this looks almost like the structure that it was a while ago as far as cash flow, right? Except this time, Bob doesn't have a $10,000 down payment. He has a no down payment, and he starts earning income immediately. Now, at the end of 6 years, remember, 1 year plus 6, here's my 7th year, just like we were a while ago. At the end of 6 years, he's going to owe $213,000, $213,058, 058. $213,058. Well, you said, well, ago he was only going to owe $175,000. Yes, but remember this. The strategy here is that I now take this money and continue to pay my investor out over time. Okay? So I'm going to now increase what I owe, and this is going to increase to 6% interest. So up here, I'm going to amortize $213,058, and I'm going to go at 6% interest. Now remember, I can do a lot of things and reduce what that could be. If they'll agree to 4%, I'll get them to do 4%. Right? So this is just assuming the guy is going to negotiate me to the nth degree. He's going to wrestle me to the ground. Okay? And in this scenario, I'm saying even if he's the hardest trader you've ever seen, you can still crush it. If he's an easy trader and he'll agree to 0 interest for 30 years, of course I would do that. If he'll agree to 2% for 30, of course, I'm sure I would do it. But I'm assuming that you want to see what happens if they don't roll over. If they're a tough negotiator, how do you still make a crushing deal out of something where they're trading you hard? Remember, he won't sell his house at a discount. He's getting full retail, more than any wholesaler would pay. And now my process is to know how to dictate the terms. And as he wants to negotiate back, I know what I can live with. And I'm sort of telling Bob, this is a worst case scenario that you can still make a lot of money at. Make sense? All right, so 213,058. I'm gonna go to 6% interest. Remember, worst case scenario, 6%. and I'm going to stretch it out over 30 years now. And my payment is going to be $1,277. Now you're going, well, Eddie, it only nets $1,200 a month, $1,265. You're breaking even. True enough. True enough. And I'll tell you this, that if in 7 years this house doesn't go up in rent a dime, I made a stupid investment. Okay? So there's some things I have to anticipate some market ride. I don't feel like this is an unrealistic market condition. Okay? So at this point, I'm owing him for 30 years. From here to here, my payment goes up to $1,277. $900 a month for 12 months. $900 a month for 6 years. I re-amortized $213,000 and I increased the rate to 6%. And now I stretch that out over 30 years at $1,277 a month. Let me tell you what's going to happen. In the customer's eyes, now he looks at all of those payments, and when does he get paid back? At the closing, he's thrilled with it. Now you say, how do you know this, Eddie? I bought 40,000 seller finance notes. I know how a note owner thinks. Okay, it's my gift. It's what I can give you a long history of knowing and understanding. I can translate that to you so that you can then fast forward in understanding, thinking of your customer at a future date. When he sees all of those payments, there is no chance, virtually no chance, that in these periods in here, that you're ever going to have to pay $1,277 a month. You say, how can you say that? Are you going to not honor your agreement? Are you not? Yeah, we're going to honor our agreement. Yeah, we're going to pay him back. He's going to want to sell all of these payments out in the future to me at a discount. That is the art of the deal. So at some point, you're saying, what do I pay for this balance? 70 cents on the dollar, 65 cents on the dollar, okay? 60 cents on the dollar. So at some point, I'm going to be able to really, really cash in because I've already anticipated a next trade with my customer. Are we going to pay him on time? Yes, absolutely. Is he under any legal obligation to go sell the loan to us at a discount? Absolutely not. He is under a legal obligation to offer it to me. As long as I match the price, nobody else can buy it. And the conditions that I write these first right of refusal and the conditions of how I structure the entity that owns it and the conditions of other things in the agreement, yes, a bank or a hard money lender would never agree to it, but an individual will. We're not going to teach you how not to pay the loan back, but we will teach you how to soften the debt that you pay back that's way different than your bank or a mortgage company would ever agree to. Okay? That is how you do creative financing and you dictate the terms to the seller. So a savvy real estate investor, Bob, calls me yesterday and says, I'm thinking about these terms. $260,000 full retail, $10,000 down, $900 a month, and on the 7th year, I'm going to pay him back all of the remaining principal, about $175,000. He said, "Is that a good deal?" And I said, "I don't think so." I said, I think you could live with it, but I think you can make it a lot better." Okay?
Can I do a question?
Let's do a question.
Joel Lee says, how do I get a seller to go for a deal that will take 36 years to pay out?
Because here's how you do it. You're always trading off. You're always trading off. You don't want to sell your house at a discount. Now remember, the compromise is they're earning interest. They're not doing it just principal only. They're not doing zero interest. They're doing it with an interest rate. The reason I show this example is because a lot of real estate investors think zero interest, zero interest, zero interest. If you can negotiate zero interest and long term, zero interest is very powerful. If you can negotiate zero interest and not a very long term, you would be better off to negotiate an interest rate in the deal and a longer term than no interest and a shorter term. And that's the analogy that I was teaching Bob yesterday, right? The average term of a seller finance note from an individual that seller finances, the average term is over 20 years. Statistically, from the loans that we see, which are about 3,000 mom and pop owner finance notes a year, the average term is over 20 years. So who asked that question?
Joel Lee.
So Joel, great question. And the answer is, you don't know until you ask. And I'm telling you, I know how these folks think. And that is the most important part. Once you know how they think, then you know what to ask for, right? So this is kind of an advanced lesson, but it's an important lesson because it's contrary to how you would think. Why would Eddie give up zero interest and start paying interest? Because when I start paying interest, I can negotiate longer term. And when I owe longer term, I can end up buying my loan at a discount. The odds become way in my favor that out here, he's going to want to cash in early. And when I cash in early, I get to buy my note at a discount. That's the deal after the deal, right? What else?
That's the only question I have right now.
Okay, so just remember, I want you to comment. I want you to like this, and I want you to share this. It's really, really important. Literally, I get a text from a mega seasoned real estate investor at least once a day that a year and a half ago were sort of disregarding what we were saying about this. And it's because they're realizing how many deals they're walking away from because they're making a cash offer for the customer to sell at a discount, and the guy says no, and they're thinking, I got no plan B to go try to buy that property. In other words, this is the 2% of real estate investors that do this, or that are guys that are buying properties that everybody else is passing on. And now real estate investors are starting realizing how difficult it is to go find more leads and find more customers that say they want to sell, only to make them an offer and they say, oh, well, I won't accept that, right? Now, Joel, let me say this. This talk off and how you say it is really more important than knowing how to structure these numbers. How you position the offer is really important. And as I told Bob yesterday, who's already scheduled to come see me at a 3-day class here really soon, Bob, we're going to beat this up a lot in the class. We're going to talk about this talk off. We're going to talk about how to present it in a way that they're willing to do it. There's a compromise conversation that I'm going to teach Bob to have that is going to drastically affect his communication skills and how he says this. How do you go buy a house at full retail and make a lot of money? creative financing. I showed you how to buy a house with no money in it. By the way, there'd be no personal guarantee, no qualification. You're going to have absolutely the chance to buy your own note at a deep discount in the future. And we're going to negotiate about 20 more things in the agreement that a bank or a mortgage company or a hard money lender would laugh at you. But your seller will do it because you know how to ask for it and you know what to ask for. You have to know what you're negotiating for. So if you look at this scenario and you look at it, he's buying a property that'll cash flow, okay? He's got nothing in it, and he has an incredible option to structure it at a discount. Now, let me tell you this, and this goes out to my friend Bob. I don't like rent houses, okay? So if I bought this house, I would resell it and get about $50,000 cash down at the closing from somebody that I sold it to. Okay? And then I would do a wrap note. And that wrap note would produce me income every month that's not rent, that I don't have to pay taxes on, and that I don't have to pay insurance on. That's the buyer's responsibility. And I just get to be the bank and collect the difference between my payment that I owe the seller every month and the payment that my customer sells me. So this is a rental model, buying it on creative financing with a rental model. I like a rental model where you buy it with seller financing and you resell it on a wrap note with seller financing, and then I just become the bank, just like your bank, right? They use your money and lend it out to somebody else. That's exactly what I would do if I were structuring this deal. So that's another lesson for another day, but this is an example of how it works. I hope this has really, really shown you how to look at a deal that otherwise most people would have completely walked away from. This is another closing in your bucket. And by the way, this thing makes tens of thousands of dollars profit in the future, because I'll promise you, when you buy this loan at a big discount, and you virtually will, it's endless as to what you can do with it. And how you negotiate different terms and what you agree to is kind of endless as to different numbers. So yes, I could take this payment, lower the interest rate, shorten up the term, Joel, right? So all of these things could be structured depending on the customer and the situation as to what the counterbalance is. Customer says, well, I can't live with the loan that's going to pay me back in 35 years. Okay, well, you got to lower the rate, right? If that's what he said I can't live with, I'd say, okay, I understand that. You need a loan that's going to pay you out in 30 years. Okay, I could live with that. Okay, well, now we got to lower the rate to make that math work. I just pay less, right? So it's a matter of knowing the talk off and knowing the counterbalance to kind of anticipate a customer's reaction, and then you already know what your response is to their reaction. Comment, share it, like it. I hope this really helps you guys. This is what I have been able to help more seasoned real estate investors and more beginning real estate investors in the past 6 months than I ever have my whole career. In a changing real estate market where wholesaling is getting tighter, where the conversion rates of how many people you make an offer to versus how many people sell, when all of those scenarios are converging, this is how you make a deal that only the 2% of the world knows how to make. And it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner. It doesn't matter whether you're the most seasoned guy in your market. If you can do this, you're doing it smarter and better than your competition. Come hang out with me. Let's learn more about this. That's why we have these classes. See you soon. Bye-bye.